all the shot programs were live except one or two tiny things on film. It was only on the air for a few hours a day. And when you went to get on the air, that was the only thing that television viewers could see. You were it, you know. And the situation between that, which was in the 52, 53, and now 2015, 2018, you know, is huge.
Is there any truth to the rumour that you bagged your first job in TV without having really seen any?
Yes.
You're not really qualified?
I've seen one programme.
What was it?
It was a play by Ennui, transmitted live. I forgot what it was called. I hadn't got a television set. My wife-to-be, my girlfriend had, parents had. I saw that. And I applied for a job in radio, and I didn't get an interview. And a fortnight later, someone wrote to me from the BBC and said, we've got this new thing called television. People are being quite rude about it, but we think there could be something in it. Would you like to come to Alexandra Palace and see if you'd be interested? When I joined, I was a television producer. I mean, I joined as a trainee, but back in 1952. So my job was to devise programs. And when it came to production, I would direct cameras in the studio. And then when we started making films, I directed films. But then, as the technology got better, there were more people involved in the job. I mean, initially I made programs overseas with just myself and the cameraman. I did the recording, sound recording, that is.
So we're talking about 1952.
Yeah.
And it was then known as the talks department. I
Well,
mean, it sounds like sort of radio with pictures, really.
Well, that's indeed so. But what other name would you give to it was effectively all non-fiction television. And there were about a dozen, no, less than that, 8 television producers who did all non-fiction. I just exclude sport and outside broadcast, but all the rest. I mean, religion, politics, quizzes, cooking, knitting, all that sort of stuff. And I used to do sometimes, it was all live, I should say. And I would produce maybe 1 or 2 programs a week. That was quite intense. It wasn't always like that, but we did anything, and people would come into the canteen and said, we've got a problem, and the Radio Times is just going to press, and we've got absolutely nothing for next Tuesday at 7:30. Anybody got any ideas? Oh, yeah. No, really. Went into television. There was one television network in the whole of the United Kingdom, and you couldn't see that from outside London and Birmingham. And it was all the shot programs were live except 1 or 2 tiny things on film. It was only on the air for a few hours a day. And when you went to get on the air, that was the only thing that television viewers could see. You were it, you know. And the situation between that, which was in the 52, 53, and now 2015, 2018, you know, is huge.
So that first time when the cameras go live and the red light goes on, that very first time, do you remember that? Were you terrified, or did you take to it?
Well, I've been doing live programs as a
producer,
director. So the atmosphere of the studio, which of course, as you know, and many of you here will know, I mean, it's champagne, isn't it? I mean, it's really very, very exciting. And particularly when you know it's live. And particularly, I mean, when you drove away from the evening, you know, you're coming down from Alexandra Palace around the North Circular, and if there was that eerie glow on those curtains, you know, there were no people there with a television set. And they would have been watching you, they would have seen your programme, and you almost wanted to stop and knock on the door and say, do you think it was all right? I'm awfully sorry about that last bit. Yeah. In those days, we didn't have long enough lenses to get close-ups of animals at any distance. So the only way you're going to see the close-up of, say, a gaboon viper, you know, is about to strike, a cobra about to strike. You couldn't film that, really, properly. So the thing you do was you have to do it in the studio, which is what, so the excuse was, there was a chap from the zoo who knew and understood about catching cobras and gaboon vipers and so on. He would pick it up, and that was on film, and then in order to get the details and show how this, that, and the other, you had it live in the studio, because where you could really get close, you could really get cameras close, and so on. So that's what we did. I mean, if you saw them now, you couldn't believe how crude they were. But at that time, you see, nobody had seen an aardvark. No, nobody had seen a sloth. And everything you did, it didn't matter how badly you did it, they hadn't seen that sort of stuff before. And so they thought, did you see the aardvark last night? You know. The speed at which things have changed. I mean, you barely learned how to deal with something before it's out of date. And these days, that is certainly the case. And because new equipment is coming all the time, new abilities, new possibilities of getting pictures is turning up all the time. I mean, what's the latest thing? Drones are the latest. How long have there been drones? 5 years, 6 years, something like that. But already drones are, another drone shot, you know, and what's coming tomorrow? There can't be anything. No, that's too extravagant, but there can be few things that are changing more swiftly than video technology.
The wonderful thing is when I watch you and you have moments like, you know, a crocodile coming at you or you meet a Komodo dragon for the first time, you don't seem to be fazed. Did you realise early on that you were not afraid? You were much more enthralled than ever showing any fear?
I am afraid.
Oh.
But the camera's on the animal. And the bit where, you know, you've got these binoculars looking straight at the camera, that sort of thing, you know, the animal's not there. That's absolutely cut in, you see. So you haven't seen me saying, oh, my God. I have chums, or had chums, in this sort of game, making natural history, who absolutely love the tinkle of danger, you know. Let's get a little close to that line. Yeah, I'm not like that. You know, I'm quite cautious, and so you know, if I see in the animal that I'm getting near, I see behaving in an uneasy way, I would slowly walk backwards, you know, and get out of the way. But in a way, that's what this particular job, as I interpret it, that's what it's required. You aren't supposed to be making a program about animals being frightened and aggressive. You're trying to make a program about animals when they are at home and relaxed and doing what they would do in a natural way.
What is wonderful is that you always sound so confident and you say, well, this is now the anglerfish and this is their particular way of procreating, whatever. How many times are there shots where you just think, I have no idea what we're looking at and we have to take it home and somebody else is going to have to work this out?
Almost, I mean, this is the unromantic thing to say, almost never.
Right.
The fact is, you should have done your homework. My job is to know what the possibilities are going to happen. You want to know what they are. And you shouldn't be caught unawares. And I don't think I ever have in a serious way. And not only that, you just don't go out into the natural world and say, went to Africa somewhere and say, oh, I'm bound to see something interesting, you know, I'll squirt around. You've got an idea as to what your program is. And you want to know that this is the moment when you want to see what? Monkeys self-anointing, you know, for curing themselves of ears and using special leaves. And you traipse around with that monkey troop, and there's a scientist that who told you about it, and he comes along and helps and says, yes, go down to this troop, they're doing it and what, and you traipse around until you get it. And if they do something else, you don't say, oh, well, I'll forget about the self-anointing, because that's not what you're about. You've got a very strong idea as to what the function, why you are there, and that's what you're after, and that's what you get, and you stay there until you get it. I would say, if someone wanted to start, okay, get yourself a camera, home video, go and make something. If you're in the natural history game, make a program about some simple animal, a mouse, a worm or pigeon. It's something you can be sure it's going to be there. And try and make a story about it and see whether you really want to spend your time lying on your stomach waiting for the worm to come out of the hole or whatever it is. And try and work out how you're going to tell a story about a worm. Actually, nobody's made a program that I know about. I've made a program about sequences, but nobody's made the program. It could be very interesting. You know, what happens? I mean, come to think of it now, what about lighting? Can worms see? Are they going to be put off by light? How long will I have to wait before, is there a good time when I can expect the worms to come out? How do they copulate? You know, and how would I get the shot that would show it? Well, those are the kind of questions which you're going to have to ask in reality, admittedly not with them, but if I'd asked them about a mouse, which perhaps is a more practical thing to do, that'd be quite interesting, you know. How do I know when the mouse is going to come out? How do I persuade it to come out? How do I adjust it to the light? What do I do about low light? What is the story that we're talking about? Am I going to film it over a period of a day or a week or a fortnight or what? And if you start doing that and then putting it together, you'll begin to learn something about television and television storytelling.